and love and beauty. Well, you found it in other people.
Sitting in my chair, then the vision appears. Staring at the wall turned into the spheres. And the spheres held the planet, somewhat distant, some near. Out of limits, and the answer was there. Warm currents were rushing, infinities came in abundance. Century seasons only by the dozens. Prophesizing our coming, and it was told I hold the mic way beyond the hundreds. The mic turned to greatness. Greatness took me to the sacred places to give the glory over me like a blanket. Then I reclined so I could see the design. Voice said, close your eyes, 'cause all we need is your mind. And the rhyme, like a storm as the currents blew me on through gases. I saw places where planets were born. And the voice that spoke to my ghost majestic. Let's show you the essence. Let's reveal to you the presence. The seventh seal of the heavens. Within the will, the legend, the seal of the lesson, the skill. It's perfection. Kneel before the weapon out. Chemists of the sinners to heal within the message to build. Effervescence. I felt shadows all around me. They said that's just the pharaohs trying to crown me. There's towers and crystal balls within your bounty. You're now free to explore all the visions and encounters your mind can soar. For all the wisdom and the counsel, the psychic mystique. I've been writing for weeks. Every time I say a rhyme, it whitens my teeth. Make angels pillars of stone, people pillars of salt. What I reveal under the cloth, where the killer would talk. Swimming in the cosmic gulf, in the rivers of thought. Where the healers was taught, in the mirror seemed lost. And they finished the planet Tiamat on the Shabbat. Then they planted eating crops in the evening would drop. When there was nothingness, that's when y'all made the covenant. On the cross, his blood would drip, and the cost the buzzes pick. Time and admiration, stress and aggravation. I don't do yoga, but I can stretch imagination. God tears turns to prayer beads. Falls over the neck of a cardinal wearing the wooden Mary. Whispering verses over the buried in the Celtic cemetery. And he held it to his visions were heavy. Like a time machine, saw the dynasty of kings. The mindless was seen, the skyline turned to red. Paint, beads, water or oil. Saint, holy men, back on royal. Angels, devils, or aliens. Which you believe in more? Do you receive and restore? Do you want peace or war? Do you wish to live free of my law? It gets deep to the core. We perform prayers, fasting, charities, go on pilgrimage. But do we know what real healing is? Research a million years, the real healing is here. Without the billion, I became a billionaire. From natural disaster to the days of dinosaurs and raptors, to common law, to all kinds of war, to the rapture.
I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it. You want to talk about...
Well, because it can't be verified.
You want to talk about insignificant things.
I'm telling you.
Of course it can be verified. Excuse me, they found the laptop. Leslie.
It can't be verified.
What can't be verified?
The laptop.
Why do you say that?
Because
even the family hasn't...
Peace, family. Beats, rhymes, and politics. Going to dig into this Hunter Biden laptop situation. Let's go.
Days before the 2020 election, with President Trump laughing when then President Trump brought up the Hunter Biden laptop during an interview. Now, yesterday, CBS News finally confirmed that the Hunter Biden laptop is real. A full 769 days after the New York Post's initial report. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz pressing FBI officials about the whereabouts of Hunter Biden's laptop. He did not receive a strong response. Watch this.
You are the assistant director of FBI Cyber. Where Hunter Biden's laptop is. Where is it?
Sir, I don't know that answer.
I mean, Hunter Biden's password on his laptop was Hunter02. He drops it off at a repair store. I'm holding the receipt from Max Computer Repair, where in December 2019, they turned over this laptop to the FBI. And what now you're telling me right here is that as the assistant director of FBI Cyber, you don't know where this is after it was turned over to you 3 years ago.
Yes, sir, that's an accurate statement.
Know that Peter Schweitzer has already reported many times that the Biden family has taken $31 million from Chinese officials tied to the Chinese Communist Party. Because now we are actually feeling the effects of influence peddling in real time. forcing us to question Joe Biden's decision-making on Russia, Ukraine, and China, 3 countries where his family receives many, many dollars, tens of millions.
It appears as if certainly Biden Incorporated and all those working inside that corporation, if you will, just thought that this story would go away because you had Twitter and other large technology companies running cover for this family. And just the fact that the New York Times finally printed its own confirmation that the laptop wasn't Russian disinformation, but belonged to Hunter Biden. Now they're struggling. This family is going to continue to struggle, and those in government, because this story is not going away.
Just that this story is not going away, Nancy. Peter Schweitzer is expecting an indictment to come soon of Hunter Biden. And he told me on Sunday Morning Futures a week ago that he thinks that's the reason that the New York Times is forced to admit this is real, because they expect an indictment coming as well.
Yeah, well, and he's been right all the way through and ahead on this story, along with Miranda Devine. So I do think it's sickening. The level of incompetence at Justice and FBI, or the level of cover-up, I think is historical.
I want to get your take on all of this. Is Hunter on the verge of being indicted? What would that mean for his father, President Joe Biden?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's the short answer, but it sure seems that way. I mean, you mentioned those 2 stories from the Washington Post 10 days ago. Understand they were 4 minutes apart. One was at 11, one was at 11:04. So 2 8-page long stories, 4 minutes apart, from the news organization that said 18 months ago there was no story here, this was Russian disinformation. That tells you something is up, but you don't see the Washington Post do that. I think it's interesting too, Maria, how this story has evolved, how it has changed. Remember, it started off as, it wasn't his laptop. Then it was, it was his laptop, but it was Russian disinformation. Now it's, no, it wasn't Russian disinformation, but Joe had nothing to do with it. And now finally it is, Joe had something to do with it, but he really didn't do anything wrong. In fact, that's what his chief of staff, Ron Klain, told us last Sunday. The thing that bothers me the most, though, Maria, is the conspiracy. The left always says, there's these right-wing conspiracy. The real conspiracy here was the Democrats, big tech, big media, keeping this story from the American people just days before the most important election we have. Election for President of the United States, election for who's going to be the commander-in-chief, and you have a family involved with all kinds of foreign business interests, and we don't get to hear that story. And maybe the worst of it all was what 51 former intelligence officials did. That letter they wrote where they said this has all the earmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign, that letter became the basis for big tech and big media to suppress this story and keep it from we the people in the run-up to our most important election. That's why we sent a letter to these 51 guys. We want to know who they were talking to, how they came to this conclusion, how they put that letter together, because that was the basis for the conspiracy that kept information from the voters right up before the presidential election.
And we also have the New York Post headline, Spies Who Lie, with the faces of all of those. Right front and center is John Brennan and James Clapper on the cover of the New York Post there, who lied and said that it was Russian disinformation. Let's just be clear, Jim Jordan, these guys were key officials in the CIA and the other intelligence agencies. They would have known that this was not Russian disinformation.
All right, peace, family. We just getting started with the Hunter Biden laptop exposure edition of Beats, Rhymes, and Politics. Just getting started. It gets way deeper than what we just heard from certain news outlets. In particular, these came from Fox Business. Fox Business has been on top of the story from day one since it was leaked through Rudy Giuliani, of all people. The computer repair store owner was getting a lot of pushback and stiff arms from the FBI and authorities, so he went to Rudy Giuliani with the information that he had with the hard drive of the laptop. So Rudy went to the FBI, and he further got stiff-armed and delayed, and before you know it, he ended up getting raided. Just like Trump and Mar-a-Lago. But Rudy Giuliani, he's been trying to expose and enlighten the people upon this laptop and this crime family, this syndicate of deception that is currently running the White House, these devils in drag running the White House right now through the CIA operative, Barack Obama. Yeah, he finally got his wish, chilling in the basement with his earpiece, directing the president. Just let them keep running their mouths, they always tell on themselves. Go back and listen to them recordings of Obama. Listen to the recordings of Hillary. Listen to the recordings of Bush. The recordings of Clinton, Bill. Listen to the Nixon tapes. You'll find out some very interesting stuff about Bohemian Grove. James Clapper and these other intelligence agents who said this was Russian disinformation definitely are guilty of treason. We're going to get on James Clapper in another episode, but for right now we're going to vibe out with this instrumental and pick up with some Rudy Giuliani audio exposing Hunter Biden and the laptop and his dealings, Ukraine, China. Beats, rhymes, politics, what urban radio should be. Peace to all the listeners. Mockingbird free, always.
%50 of the bribe money, which makes sense actually. Well, this is really a very, very sensitive one. There's a text message to his father in which he says the following, and he's discussing his sister-in-law, who for quite some time was his lover. And he says, she told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate. This would be with a unnamed 14-year-old girl. When she says that I FaceTime naked with the unnamed 14-year-old girl, and the reason I can't have her out to see me is because I'll walk around naked smoking crack, talking tom girls on FaceTime. When she was pressed, she said that the unnamed 14-year-old girl never said anything like that, but the bottom line is that I created and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. This is supported by numerous pictures of underage girls.
So, Mr. Mayor, that's dynamite stuff, and I've seen it.
I turned it over to the.
You turned it over to the Delaware State Police, correct?
Yes, yesterday. Bernie Kerik and I turned it over to the Delaware State Police because we're very uncomfortable with this. So we're very uncomfortable with the fact that these underage girls were not protected.
So here's the deal. Hunter Biden, let's face it, he's never going to be elected to anything, and he'll probably wind up in jail someday for something. Who knows? But I'm more concerned about the vice president because he's the one who's running. Right, I see that. But you know what I don't see, Mr.
This was sent to the vice president.
Here's the deal. And look, I want to be clear here.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not there.
Sent to him. What did he do about it?
Exactly.
What did he do about it?
Well,
for 3 years.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing is, in that, hold on a second, in the text messaging you just showed me and we went through, we've got Junior, who is Joe Biden, talking to Hunter Biden. We have no acknowledgement in what we just saw
from the vice president. We don't know what he knows or whatever, and this is all family drama. And by the way, it's so late. It's big time. They could be in trouble. And I'm glad you got it out there, but I want to know, is there anything concrete tying Joe Biden to Burisma money from China? It does not look good at all to me, those emails and what they were up to.
No.
Anything in that regard. And if you haven't found it yet, you're kind of saying it might still be there, because how much of this hard drive have you been through?
I found it already. You found it. There's a memo in here that says that 10% of the money that was being whacked up, that was $10 million a year, and then 50% of the profits with 3 Chinese communists, one of whom was a Chinese intelligence operative. That 10% of that was going to H for the big guy. So we've identified the big guy several ways. One, right after that text message, email rather, there's an email that is asking for keys for the office they're going to share with the Chinese communists. And the first key they ask for is for Joe Biden, the big guy.
Yeah.
Number 2, there's an anonymous source that has told Fox News that the big guy is definitively Joe Biden. He's one of the people involved in the deal. I know his name. I'm not at liberty to tell you, but I'm told that within a day or two, he's going to go public.
The Attorney General, we know the president is kind of impatient with him. I interviewed him last week. I said, is he going to be around for a second term? He said no comment. Looks like this hard drive may have been in the FBI's possession for over a year at this point.
No, I think 7 months. Right.
7 months, to be fair. All right. So at this point, is the Attorney General going to do anything before Election Day?
I have no idea. All I can tell you is, if you were to look at the photographs on this hard drive, and you didn't report it to the police, well, if you were a law enforcement officer, you'd be guilty of a felony. And if you're just a normal citizen, you'd be a horrible human being. There are numerous pictures here of girls that are being, they shouldn't be there. You've got half a hard drive to go through. Instead, I have an iron curtain that is trying to censor everything that's coming out. It's unprecedented. We've got, and it tells you how damaging this information is. I will tell you, Greg, this is probably the worst scandal I've ever seen. And there's a depravity to it that's horrendous, which is why I reported it to the Delaware police. And I hope they're independent enough to investigate it properly. But there are images on here where if you don't realize how damaging this is to young people, there's something wrong with you. And Joe Biden knows that. Plus, Joe Biden is the one who used his son to be a bag man for 20 years when he knew his son was a drug addict. This is not about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden. It's about what a crook he is and what a horrible father he is. Sure, I have, if I could find a news organization that's independent enough and willing to really deal with it honestly, as opposed to the iron curtain that I have of Twitter not being willing to put out the New York Post story, Facebook, New York Times, New York Post, several of the other New York publications, not the New York Post, obviously, the Washington Post, NBC, ABC, CBS. There's an iron curtain of censorship over this. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this is fatal to Joe Biden as a candidate. It should be fatal to him as a human being, because I don't mean fatal, but I mean he should be prosecuted for this. These are major bribes in which he sold out the United States to China, and there's a sexual depravity to this that is disgusting. As a prosecutor, I will tell you, he hasn't denied a single text or email, nor has Hunter, nor have they denied that this is his hard drive. And this is 5 days, 6 days now, and there's no doubt this is his hard drive. And there's no doubt that the Biden family, over 30 years, in the words of him, Hunter Biden, made millions and millions of dollars, of which he had to give half to his father. That's the bribery scheme. What the kid was used as was a bag man, and that's disgraceful. Joe Biden had a bunch of Washington flunkies who could have been his bag man, not his kid. I felt there was a legal mandate on us to present these pictures to the Delaware police. To my knowledge, they still haven't done anything about it, nor has the FBI. The FBI had gotten the computer, I think it was in Albuquerque, from from Mr. Isaac's brother earlier had been through it. So they obviously knew what it contained. And what puzzles me is they never did anything about it.
They weren't taking the 3 hard drives, which of course are electronic devices. They just mimic the computer. I said, well, don't you want these? And they said, what are they? I said, those are Hunter Biden's hard drives. And they said, no. I said, are you sure you don't want them? I mean, the warrant required them to take it. And they said, no. And one last time I said, don't you think you should take it and they said no.
All right, fam, we're back with another dope instrumental to vibe to. A little commentary from I. Just heard from America's mayor, aka Rudy Giuliani, about the first contact he had with the laptop from Ukraine and his efforts to try to get it to the proper authorities so it can be handled. And as you can see, even when he was raided with the warrant, the FBI agents did not want to take the laptop. And that right there within itself is amazing, considering that it was one of the items to be taken. So we always gotta be aware of the tricks and flim and double crossing that takes place within the law enforcement, whether it's at your state, local, and even federal levels. There's always some corrupt actors. And evidently these FBI agents who came to serve a warrant, Rudy Giuliani, were on that corrupt side of the spectrum. Yeah, we're going to continue to vibe out with this particular instrumental here, and then we're going to listen to Miss Divine interview, the author of Laptop from Hell. Brief excerpts from her interview with Will Kane on his podcast. Will Kane, formerly of ESPN, now does some work for Fox News over the weekends. Let's vibe with them, see what's going on. Speaking of law enforcement, state, federal, local level, peace to all those who are doing a good job, trying to do a good job. You know, that's one of the most challenging occupations to have is in law enforcement. So the people does salute those who do their job without a corrupt heart. And it's a damn shame how Joe just used and abused his son instead of having this man treated for his addictions. Just seemed to exploit it. Well, not surprising coming from Joe, especially when you see the manner in which he exploited his own daughter. You look into her diary, there was a horrible situation that she was put into by her father. Molestation by him and his friends. This is the type of individual who is apparently running the country, but we know that that's not true. There's even worse people pulling his strings.
the big takeaway from the discoveries of Hunter Biden's laptop?
The number one thing is that this is really not a story about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden. And it's about the influence peddling scheme that he ran out of Delaware from his very earliest days as a senator 4 decades ago, and then internationalized when he became vice president. And President Obama gave him carriage for, some pretty important parts of the world, such as China and Russia, Ukraine, and those places were the countries where his family took the most amount of money. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars.
So I'm glad you said that's the major takeaway, and that's what we need to go into today, because when I say it's received a surface level amount of attention, I think it's because we've paid way too much attention to the media conspiracy to cover up this story. That in and of itself is a major story, but the potential compromise and corruption of the President of the United States is the bigger story. And so let's start with that. Let's start with what is on this laptop. I know a lot is on the laptop, but what exactly were you able to find when you got your hands on this laptop and dug through the dozens, hundreds, thousands of files?
Well, I think what we have, and it's not just what's on the laptop, it's also, you have to think about it as a jigsaw puzzle. The laptop's a big part of it, but equally Tony Bobulinski's material from his various devices that he handed over to the FBI in October 2020, shortly after our story broke in the New York Post. That's really crucial. He was Hunter Biden's business partner for the biggest deal that the Biden family and associates were involved in with China. And then another part of the jigsaw puzzle is all the financial documents that Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson managed to dig up during their very good investigation into part of this sort of Hunter Biden-related corruption. So when you look at that all in totality, what you see is that, number one, Joe Biden lied to the American people. I think we can pretty safely say that during the election campaign when he said he knew nothing about his son Hunter's overseas business dealings. He knew a lot. He was involved. He was intimately involved in a lot of it. He always had a sort of plausible deniability angle in which he didn't get into the weeds and get involved in the details of various deals. But he was wheeled out by Hunter to meet overseas business partners, prospects, paymasters, and to be around when there were prospective deals on the table. Quite late last year, I found, when I was writing the book, I found this email, or a couple of emails from Hunter's business partner, Eric Schwerin, who was really his factotum. He cleaned up for him, he answered his emails when he was on vendors, he did his taxes for him. And in that, Eric Schwerin talks about paying for various bills for Joe Biden. Hunter had to pay for, a monthly AT&T phone bill. There's another email talking about bills for maintenance and upkeep and renovations on one of Joe's Delaware mansions. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. It seemed like that was a fairly common occurrence. It's just that these bills were well overdue, which is why they made their way into an email. There's also emails from Schwerin and elsewhere showing that Hunter and his father shared bank accounts. They shared a debit card. The whole picture you put together, it's little bits and pieces that put together are a pattern. They tell you that Joe and Hunter Biden shared, had their finances commingled, that Hunter was earning a lot of money. He says in his own words he had to give half his salary to his father, and in another complaint he says, I've basically funded this entire family for the last 30 years and I get no credit, I get no respect, which is true because he was a crack addict and he was proving a problem and he was an embarrassment to his father as his father was gearing up for his last chance to become president. And so Hunter was absolutely furious about being sidelined, about what he saw as about this problem, Hunter. And Hunter's, much smarter than people give him credit for, and he was fully aware of what was going on and felt very aggrieved, and his relationship with his father was pretty tortured anyway. I think it's rather ambivalent. He worships his father, but he also feels obviously deep anger. And so the laptop tells you a lot about the family dynamics, which is important in terms of understanding how this entire influence peddling scheme that the Biden family was running with Joe as the product and also the orchestrator for nigh on 40 years. You can understand it through the family dynamics and through some of the financial trail that's on the laptop, and then that's buttressed by both of those other pieces of the jigsaw puzzle I mentioned. Real life story are kooky. I mean, they're larger than life. Everybody is sort of peculiar in some way. Sometimes when I was writing it, I was thinking, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show. This is real, but it seems like fiction in some ways. The gods are playing a joke on us. But look, that John Paul Mac-Isaac happened. He was legally blind, very good with close-up work, a highly intelligent computer guy, very successful little business in Greenville, Delaware, which is in the local shopping center that the Bidens used to frequent, that had the gourmet market. It had the garbage bin, the trash can, into which Hallie Biden, Hunter's lover, sister-in-law turned lover, into which she threw his gun. They were there all the time. It was their local shopping centre. Just so happened that was the MacBook repair shop. And who would have thought when Hunter Biden dropped his laptop off that mild-mannered, quietly spoken, legally blind computer repairman was actually a pretty strong Trump supporter and a major patriot who could not let go what he saw on the laptop, because he was so intimately interested in he was watching Fox News and watching the drumbeat and the lead up to the impeachment of Donald Trump over Ukraine, and this company called Burisma, which he recognized because Hunter's laptop was waterlogged. It was so damaged that when he was uploading it onto his server, he couldn't just set it forget. He had to sit there and laboriously, segment by segment, or sector by sector, I think he called it, upload it. So he was watching it in real time as it was screening and scrolling across the screen. And Hunter was a crackhead, so this was one of 3 laptops that we know of that he'd lost. He'd left one behind with his psychiatrist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. He had another one stolen by Russian drug dealers in Vegas. That's what he told a prostitute friend of his on video, so we need to take his word for it. But he was always losing devices. You could see from the Apple emails that he got how he was frequently having to reset his password by new phone or laptop or whatever. So he was a mess. He was a crackhead. It's not really that hard to believe that he would leave a laptop behind and not go back to pick it up. But what you also can see in the context of the laptop is he had built himself up into an absolute rage against his entire family, particularly his father, in April 2019. He really felt disrespected. He felt that his whole life had fallen apart, and that now they were kicking him to the curb because Joe wanted to become president. And so, whether it was a Freudian resentment or accidental or sort of subconsciously revenge against his father, who knows? But this was peak anger from Hunter, and when he left it behind, you could just imagine him saying, well, screw them. FBI, and they came and picked up the laptop in December 2019. And of course, he had an entire copy of the laptop on his server because he had to upload it. But they took it and they had it. He impressed upon them what he thought were the salient elements that were to do with sort of exonerating Donald Trump over Ukraine. And they took it away, really didn't give him much interest or respect. And there it kind of got lost in the FBI annals, because we know just a few weeks ago we had the FBI head of cyber security or cyber was testifying in Congress, and Matt Gaetz asked him, where's Hunter Biden's laptop? And he said, well, I don't know. Don't ask me. He seemed quite offended to even be asked, because if it was something unseemly, it's outrageous. But I get the feeling that the Delaware grand jury that is looking into alleged criminal offences by Hunter Biden and looking into all his business affairs, I get the feeling that they have access to that material. Certainly they have access to Tony Bobolinsky's material, because, as I said, he handed over all his WhatsApp messages and documents and emails to the FBI, and a lot of that basically overlaps with what's on Hunter's laptop, but there's a lot of new information, particularly encrypted messages. Well, you want to talk about the porn and what he did was he seemed to have this obsession with documenting every aspect of his life. So he would record voice memos when he was having conversations, when he was off his base with, girlfriends or prostitutes or whatever. He loved to record himself. At video recordings, he would record himself having sex with women, multiple women. He would take photographs of himself naked. He would take photographs of his penis. There's one photograph where he's arrayed a bunch of M&Ms across it, along it. He would take photos. He went to a hotel room in Vegas and ordered this massive, gluttonous room service menu. It looked like he ordered everything on the menu, and it's all laid out there, and he's photographing it, and then he flops his penis into the middle of it and photographs it. So this is the kind of bizarre, it's almost like a 2-year-old boy. I can't really describe it any other way, but so there's that sort of weird psychological.
And we know that along the way, he's sharing a debit card in many of these situations with Joe Biden, and the Secret Service is helping run interference for him, correct? With some of these prostitutes, with some of these expenditures, saying to him, you can't be doing this with this card. This is, at that time, the vice president or the recently left vice president's finances. So the Secret Service is aware and helping run interference.
Look, this was one time that the Secret Service, they were actually retired Secret Service agents. One of them had only retired a matter of a couple of weeks before as the head of the field office in Los Angeles, so a pretty high up person. Anyway, they came knocking on his door at his Hollywood hotel because he had this sort of incident with his debit cards where he had a prostitute that had come and stayed for a long time, and he owed her $8,000 or so, and she'd been there overnight, and his debit cards weren't working, and so she kept trying. He kept on giving her new debit cards in the morning, and anyway, finally one went through, and then he went to sleep, and then when he woke up a few hours later, he found that all of these different transactions had gone through, so it was something like $120,000 had been skimmed off his various cards. And next thing, he's getting these text messages from the Secret Service, former Secret Service agent, saying, "Hey, Hunter, open up the door. That's Celtic's account, or I think it's Celtic's account." Now, Celtic was the code name that the Secret Service had for Joe Biden when he was vice president. So somehow one of these debit cards was connected to Joe Biden's account, and this was a problem. And so you piece together from what's on the laptop, and it's helpful that he records everything, because he must have a bad memory because of all the drugs. So he often will photograph text messages and other things.
So the picture, not simply, I want you to walk me through this, because it's not simply a father attempting to, make his son an adult and sort of intermix business. The question becomes does this business amount to a tit for tat, a quid pro quo? Is Hunter on the board so that Burisma can influence the United States government? is Hunter doing business with a Chinese company so that that Chinese government company, and by extension the Communist Party, has access to the highest levels of the United States government? And does the laptop help us piece together that puzzle? We have a wholly unqualified crack addict who's totally intertwined with his father, right? But what do we have that connects it that this is what's going on? Quid pro quo, Joe's getting money for corrupt countries having access to the government.
Well, it's interesting, just to take the first point that you mentioned about a father and a son having intertwined, business and banking, if the father is trying to help out the crack addict son. And I am certain that when this all blows up, which it will, that will be Joe Biden's defense, and that you'll see those narratives run through the New York Times and the Washington Post. And anyone who disagrees with that and tries to lay out the facts that are contrary to that will be treated as some sort of monster.
So it'll be the doting father who's trying to help his burdened son become an adult or find a successful or sustainable life.
Exactly. I mean, he did that during that last debate with Donald Trump when Trump brought up the laptop, and he basically, two things he did was he cited the 51 former intelligence officials who basically misled, if you can't say lie, but certainly deliberately misled the American public by implying that this was Russian disinformation on the laptop and our reporting was. Right. But also when Donald Trump brought up Hunter Biden, Joe Biden looked down the barrel of the camera to the American people and spoke to them and said, look, like a lot of people at home, my son had an addiction problem, but he's beaten it, and I'm so proud of him. And, that's a pretty effective technique, and you can't underestimate Joe Biden's kind of ability to emotionally manipulate people, because that's what he's done all his life. China or Ukraine or Russia or these very corrupt countries. It's so obvious. What's really obvious to them is not so obvious in America, which is that you don't pay the bribes to the top official. You pay it to their son or their daughter or a family member. And in China, these sons and daughters, most of the sons are called princelings. And it's just the way business is done. It's completely normal. And so they saw with their eyes a very obvious message that was being sent when Joe Biden flew on Air Force 2 with Hunter into Beijing in 2013. And, Hunter's there at the top of the stairs. As soon as the Chinese saw him, they knew that this was, I say this all the time, this was American power come to do private business. And there's all sorts of coded messages in that Americans didn't pick up.
Okay, family, that's going to do it for this episode of Beats, Rhymes, Politics, RBG, American Media Watch. What urban radio should be. Mockingbird free, sucker free always. Peace to all the listeners out there. Soak up them jewels, keep that head nod, civilize your fam. Until next time.